In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how to work spirals from one color to four and show how you can transform these from a circle to a square. I've had a lot of requests for this video, and I want to show you that with just a few simple guidelines and techniques, these are really simple and easy to make. Before you skip to the spiral that you want to make, I want to get started with a few tips that are going to apply to all of the spirals in this video. First, we're always going to be working with the number 12. So whether you are doing a one color spiral or a four color spiral, your very first round will start with 12 stitches. Next, we're going to be doing a classic increase sequence for working in the round. So if you've never worked increases in the round before, make sure to watch that very first spiral, the one color, because this is the foundation that all the others are built on. Once you get a hang of that, the rest are easy to understand. Stitch markers are your best friend for this, so be sure that you have plenty on hand. For all of these, I'm going to be working 4 rounds or working up to 48 stitches, but it doesn't matter what round you end on, any of these can be turned into a square, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. All of the spirals are going to be worked in double crochets, except for round 1 where we're beginning that spiral effect, so we'll be using single crochets and half double crochets. But other than that, you'll always be working with double crochets. We're going to start with one color just so we can get comfortable with the sequence. We're working with multiples of 12, meaning we're going to go from round 1, which is 12 stitches, to 24, 36, and 48. You can either begin with a magic ring or a chain 4 with a slip stitch to form a ring. For this one color, I'm going to start with a magic ring. Wrap the yarn around your fingers, pull the yarn through the center, and create a chain. Like I mentioned earlier, we're working with 12 stitches for round 1. So we're going to break it up as 2 single crochets, 2 half double crochets, and 8 double crochets. And that's going to give us that beautiful spiral effect. So 2 singles, 1, 2, 2 half doubles, 1, 2, and 8 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's round 1 completed. We're working in multiples of 12, so now we need to take it up to 12 more. To do that, we're going to do 2 double crochets into each stitch around. The first one is a little hard to see. It's right here. Just double check that you have 12 stitches to work into. I'm going to go ahead and add a stitch marker into that very first stitch that I made. That way we can keep track of where we are. So that's 1 double. Let's do another into the same stitch. And 2 double crochets into each stitch around. Once you reach the end, you should have 24 stitches. Double check that you do, and then we're ready for round 3. So now we're going to increase by 12 again. We have 24 and we want to build to 36. And the way to do that is to add an increase after every double crochet. So it'll be 1 double crochet, increase, 1 double crochet, increase, all the way around. 1 double crochet. Let's add a stitch marker to help us stay on track. Increase. So that's 2 double crochets into the same stitch. 1 double. Increase. 2 doubles into the same stitch. 1 double crochet into the next stitch, followed by an increase, 2 doubles. So 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. Coming to the end, 1 double with an increase of 2 at the very end. And that's a quick little tip here. You're always going to end with an increase for all of the rounds. So if you don't finish on an increase, then you know that you need to backtrack and see where you missed a stitch. And you should have something that looks like this. We've gone from 24 up to 36, and now we're ready for round 4, where we're going to go from 36 to 48. So we just finished doing 1 double crochet with an increase. Now for this round, we're going to do 2 double crochets with an increase. And that's how this sequence continues to go round after round. So you can go as big as you like, just always add that increase with those stitches. So we're doing 2 double crochets now with an increase. The next round would be 3 double crochets with an increase. Round after that, 4 double crochets with an increase, and so on. So for round 4, 2 double crochets with an increase. 1. Let's put our stitch marker there to stay on track. 2. And an increase in the next stitch. That's 2 doubles into the same stitch. Next, 1, 2. And then an increase, 2 doubles in the same stitch. And continue this all the way around. Okay, when I come to the end, I have 1, 2 increase. Great, I'm on track. 1, 2, increase. Double check that you have 48 stitches. And now we're ready to close our circle. To close our circle, we're just going to give it a nice shape by tapering it down with half double crochets and single crochets. And a really easy guideline for this is just to take whatever increase you are on and apply that to your singles and your half doubles. For example, we finished with 2 double crochets with an increase, so focus on that number 2 and use that for your half doubles and your singles to taper it down. So we'll do 2 half double crochets and then 2 single crochets. So let's say, for example, you worked around where you did 6 double crochets with an increase. So then what you would do to taper that down is you'd go 6 half double crochets and then 6 single crochets to taper the circle down to finish it. So we ended on 2 double crochets with the increase, so we're going to do 2 half doubles. 1, 2, 2 singles, 1, 2, and now completely finish off with a slip stitch. So now we have an understanding of the increasing sequence. It's time to bring in our second color. We're going to be doing the same thing. We're starting with 12 stitches for our first round, but we're just dividing it into 2 for the 2 colors. So you can either start with a magic ring or chain 4 with a slip stitch to form a ring. I'm going to do that here. I find this a little bit easier to handle when you're first starting to learn how to do spirals. So I'm just going to chain 4, add a slip stitch to form a ring. And you can carry that tail if you like and cinch it closed. That's one way you can tighten it, or you can just stitch it into place later. So we still want to create that neat looking spiral. So we're going to do single crochets and half double crochets to build it up. Since we're doing 2 different colors, the sequence this time is going to be 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, and 4 double crochets. So working into the ring, 1 single. I would recommend adding a stitch marker for that first stitch because it is kind of hard to see when we start working all these stitches. So we did 1 single. Now it's time for 1 half double. I'm just going to carry that tail with me. And then 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's half of the round completed and the first color done. You can either pull a long loop or you can add another stitch marker just to hold it in place, whatever you prefer. Bring in your next color, add a slip knot to your hook. You can either fasten on with a slip stitch and a chain 1 to serve as your first single crochet, or you can do a standing single crochet. With the slip knot on your hook, go through, pull your yarn through, yarn over and pull through the loops, and that's a single crochet. I'm going to add a little stitch marker here just so we don't lose that stitch. So we did our first single crochet. Let's do a half double crochet into the ring and 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's done. You can either do a long loop or you can add a stitch marker. And if you notice here, I went around that tail so I can tighten that now, and I have a nice secure center. That's round 1 completed. We're going to start on round 2. So a quick note here, for every round we're going to begin with the same color. So we started with blue here, we're going to begin round 2 with blue again. Now we're going to do our increasing. We need to take our 12 stitches and turn it into 24. And to do that we do 2 double crochets into the same stitch, which is an increase. So we're going to increase into every stitch around. So there's my stitch marker there to help me see where that first stitch was. Okay. 1, 2. And at this point I recommend that you add a stitch marker into that first stitch you made. This way you'll easily be able to see when you finish that round. So I've just done my first 2. I'm just doing 2 double crochets into each stitch around. Last stitch. Be sure to not forget that one. That one's a bit hard because it's a little loose, but that's definitely one you want to work into. That's the blue completed. You can either do a long loop or put a stitch marker, whichever you prefer. Continuing on with the second color. That's the stitch I want to work into. Repeating the same thing for round 2, we're still doing 2 double crochets into each stitch. Two, 4, and 12. Great. And that's round 2 completed. So remember, we're always going to go right back to the first color we worked on, and now we're ready for round 3. So now we need to increase by 12 again, and to do that we're going to do 1 double crochet, increase, 1 double crochet, increase, 1 double crochet. Let's go ahead and add a stitch marker to that so we don't lose track of where we are. I'm just going to grab that one we were using. That's my first stitch made. 1 double crochet, now an increase, so that's 2 stitches, or 2 doubles into the same stitch. 1 double, increase, 1 double, increase, we have 2 stitches remaining. That's great, we're on track. So that's 1 double and an increase in that last stitch. Okay, I'm going to add a little stitch marker to that so I don't lose it. Continue on with the second color. And I have my stitch marker there to show where I began that round. So I'm just going to follow on with that sequence. 1 double, increase. 1 double, increase. 1 and 2. Perfect. So at this point you should have 36 stitches, 18 on each side. Now the sequence is going to be, instead of 1 double increase, 1 double increase, now we're going to do 2 doubles increase, 2 doubles increase. So 1 double, grab that stitch marker, we don't want to lose our spot. Always add a stitch marker into the very first stitch of the round, that way you will always stay on track. So we just did our first double, we need to do another one in the next stitch, and then an increase. So that's 2 doubles into the same stitch. So it's 1, 2, increase. One, 2, increase. Continue doing this all the way to the end of the color here. 1, 2, increase. Okay, we're going to continue on with our next color. Same sequence, continuing on. 1, 2, increase. Final increase. And we are back to the stitch marker, so we know we're finished with our round. And that is round 4 completed. You should have 48 stitches, 24 on each side. To form a circle with this, we're just going to do the same thing we did for the solid color. This round was 2 double crochets with an increase, so we're going to use that number 2 as our guide, 2 half doubles and 2 singles to form or close our circle. 2 half doubles, 1, 2, 2 singles, 1, 2, and a slip stitch to complete. Same on the other side, 2 half doubles, 1, 2, 2 singles, 1, 2, and a slip stitch to complete. And now we're on to 3 colors. Just like everything else, we're starting with 12 stitches for round 1. You can either start with a magic ring, or you can do a chain 4 with a slip stitch to form a ring. Let's go ahead and do that. It'll be easier if you've never done a spiral before to go this way. So I added a slip knot to my hook. I'm chaining 4, adding a slip stitch. Because we're using 3 colors, we're dividing that 12 into 3. So we're going to be doing 4 stitches. So we're going to do 1 single, 1 half double, and 2 doubles to begin. So working into the center, create a single, I would recommend if you're just starting out to add a stitch marker here so you don't lose that stitch. I do show how I do that in the 2-color version. Now 1/2 double and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. So you should have 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's time to move to the second color. You can either make a long loop or you can add a stitch marker to that loop. Bring in the next color. Adding a slip knot to my hook, I'm going to do a standing single crochet, or you can do a slip stitch into the ring with a chain 1, whichever you prefer. The chain 1 will serve as your first single crochet, or you can add a single crochet after it. Okay, working into the ring, pulling the yarn through, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops there. There's my first single crochet. I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit. So my first single is done. I need to do 1/2 double and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Great. That's color 2 completed. And now we're going to bring in our third color. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a slip knot to my hook, going in, pulling the yarn through, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops. That's my single crochet. Then a 1/2 double and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your first 12 stitches for round 1 completed. We're going to go back to the color we first started with. I do recommend that you just jot down these colors if you have a tendency to forget the order like I do. But basically we're just going to continue doing the same order of colors round after round. We are doing our increasing, so we need to take our 12 and turn it into 24. And to do that, we're going to do 2 double crochets into each stitch around. So working into that very first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Grab a stitch marker and place it into that very first stitch that you made. And now 2 doubles into each stitch until we get to that next stitch marker. That is a stitch that we need to work into. 2 doubles. Great. Go ahead and add a stitch marker to that or pull a long loop because we're getting ready to work into the next color. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our 4th stitch. 2 doubles. 2. 2. And 2 more. Great. Long loop or add a stitch marker. We're on our 3rd color. So we just need to work 1, 2, 3, 4 into those 4 stitches ahead of that stitch marker. Okay, we're not working into that stitch. That was our very first stitch of the round. So round 2 is completed. And now you should see 24 stitches all the way around, or 8 stitches per color segment. And now we're ready for round 3. So come back to the very first color we started with, which is red. And now it's 1 double crochet with an increase all the way around to go from 24 to 36. So 1 double increase, 1 double increase all the way around. So in that very first stitch, 1 double. Go ahead and grab that stitch marker from earlier, place it into that first stitch so we don't lose where we are. We did our 1 double, now it's an increase. One, increase. One, increase. One, increase. And we are working into that stitch there. Excellent. Pull a long loop or add a stitch marker. Continuing on, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Working into the first available stitch. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1 and 2. Remember, you're always going to finish the portion with an increase whenever you're doing this. So if you haven't, then you need to go back and see where you might have made a mistake. Okay, and we're on our last color. 1, 2, 1, 2 until we get right before that stitch marker. Remember, that stitch marker is there to show us that that was the beginning of that round. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. Great. We're finished with that round. So we're going all the way back to the first color that we started with, which is the red. And now we're ready for round 4. Now to continue on and increase 12 more, we need to do 2 doubles, then an increase. So starting with our red, let's do 2 doubles. That's 1 double in each stitch. 1, 2. Let's add a stitch marker into the very first stitch we made so we don't lose track. Now it's time for an increase. 2 doubles in the same stitch. And then continue this all the way across. 1, 2, increase. 1, 2, increase in that very last stitch. Go to color number 2 and just continue this all the way around. 2 doubles, increase, 2 doubles, increase. Final stitch is an increase. Okay, working the last color. And there's our stitch marker to show where we're finishing. 2 doubles, 1 in each stitch there, and then an increase. Awesome. And you can just continue doing this round after round if you like. So for example, the next round would be 3 double crochets with an increase to increase by 12 again. But we're going to close our circle here. And to do that, since we ended on a sequence of 2, that's what we're going to use to close this off. So we're going to do 2 half doubles, 1, 2, and 2 singles, 1 and 2, with a slip stitch to complete. 2 half doubles, 1, 2, and 2 singles, 1, 2, and then a slip stitch to complete. 1 half double, another half double, and 2 singles, 1 and 2, slip stitch to complete, and that's your circle completed. And now it's time for 4 colors. Are you ready? You can either start with a magic ring, or if you're fairly new to making spirals, I would recommend that you start with a chain 4 or 5 with a slip stitch. Let's go ahead and do that. Just going to add a slip knot to my hook, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone up to 5 since we're fastening on into the ring 4 times. It just gets a little bit bulky. Add a slip stitch. And again, we're working with 12 stitches, but we're dividing it 4 times this time. So this time we'll be using 3 stitches to start our first round. We're going to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, and a double crochet to give that really pretty spiral effect. So single. If you want, you can add a stitch marker here so you don't lose that stitch. Half double and a double. I'm going to put the stitch marker in the loop instead of making a big long loop. Bringing in my next color, slip knot on the hook. I'm going to do a standing single crochet. If you want, you can fasten on with a slip stitch and chain 1 instead, completely up to you. Either one will serve as your first single crochet. Going in, pulling the yarn through, yarn over, pull through the loops. That's a single crochet, half double, and 1 double crochet, all into the ring. Add a stitch marker to that loop or make a long loop. I just don't like dealing with all of those strands, so I find this works a lot better for me. Slip knot on the hook, fastening on with a single crochet, and then a half double, and then a double. Stitch marker into that loop. You notice here I'm carrying the tail all the way around, that way I can tighten the center and it'll look really pretty. Slip knot on my hook. Going in, pulling the yarn through, single crochet, half double, and a double. And that's all of your colors added. So that's round 1 completed, and we have 12 stitches. We started with blue, so we're going to go back to the blue to start round 2. And now we're just going to do the usual sequence of increases. We need to take our 12 to 24, so we're going to do 2 double crochets into each stitch around. There's our 3 stitches that we need to work into. So it's 2 double crochets into the same stitch. We're doing an increase in every stitch around. So I just did 2 double crochets. I'm going to add a stitch marker into that very first double that I made. That way when we come to this side, we'll know where to stop. 2 more doubles. And finally 2 more doubles in that very last stitch. It is a little gappy, but you can tighten that when you finish those stitches. 1 and 2. Excellent. I'm finished with that color, so I'm going to add a stitch marker to the loop. You can do a long loop, but I find that gets really confusing. Moving on to our next color, which is the orange. We're still on round 2. We're still doing our increases, 2 doubles in each stitch around. Two, 4, 6, I just completed those doubles, so I'm going to add a stitch marker to the orange, move to our next color, which is the cream. Find my 3 stitches that I need to work into, 2 doubles into each of those 3 stitches, 2, 4, and in that final stitch, 2 more, 1 and 2. Add a stitch marker into that loop and bring in your final color. And we have those 3 stitches that we need to work into. Here's the stitch marker for that very first stitch we made. We just need to do our 2 double crochets into each of these 3 stitches to complete this round. Two, 4, somebody is having a drink behind me, and 6. Great. So that's round 2 completed, and now we need to go back to the very beginning color that we started with, which was the blue, and we're ready for round 3. We're going to continue our increasing. We went from 12 to 24. Now for this round, we're going to go from 24 to 36. To do that, we're going to do 1 double crochet, increase, 1 double crochet, increase, all the way around. For each of these colors, we have 6 stitches to work into. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to start with a double. Grab that stitch marker and add it into that very first stitch so we don't lose track. We did our double, now we need to do an increase. 2 doubles in the same stitch. 1 double, 2 doubles in the same stitch. 1 double, and in the final stitch, an increase, 2 doubles. If you don't land with an increase, you need to go back and see where you went wrong. Add a stitch marker to that loop or make a long loop, whichever you prefer. Same increase sequence, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Working into this next set, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2. We're on our final color, and there's our stitch marker where we started that very first stitch of the round. We just need to work up to the very one in front of it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, and there's our stitch marker. We're done. That's round 3 completed. Moving back to the very first color that you used, for me that's blue. Now the sequence is going to be 2 double crochets with an increase so that we can get those 12 extra stitches for this round. So it's double, double increase, double, double increase. So double. Let's add a stitch marker to that very first double. So we did our first double, another double, and then an increase. So that's 2 doubles in the same stitch. Double, double, increase, double, double, increase, last stitch, great. Next color, double, double, increase, double, double, increase. Remember, if you don't land that last stitch with an increase, you need to go back and see where you might have missed a stitch. Easy to do. I do it all the time. And we're ready for our next color. Double, double increase all the way to the end. Double, double, increase, double, double, increase. Okay, last color, 2 doubles with an increase. 1, 2, and increase. 1, 2, and increase. We're back to the beginning of the round, and that is the round completed. So we went up to 48 stitches, 12 stitches per color. If you wanted to continue on and make your circle bigger, you would just do the same kind of sequence for your increases. So instead of doing 2 double crochets with an increase, now you're going to do 3 double crochets with an increase. And then the following round would be 4 double crochets with an increase, and so on. But we're going to stop here at 48, and we can just complete our circle as normal. To do that, we're going to follow the sequence that we were on. We were on a 2 doubles with an increase, so that's how we're going to taper this off and complete the circle. 2 half doubles and 2 singles to taper it off. 1, 2, that was 2 half doubles, 2 singles to taper it off, and slip stitch to fasten off. And you'll just continue this all the way around. And that's your circle completed. Now to turn the spiral into a square is actually really easy to do. We're going to keep on with our same multiple of 12. We finished with 48 stitches, so we want to take it up to 60. So it doesn't matter what round you're on, just divide it by 4. Minus 48 divided by 4 equals 12. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in each 12th stitch. So here is my first corner where I finished off. We'll just go ahead and put my hook there to count as that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And do this all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Back to the beginning. To make our corners, we're going to add 3 double crochets into each corner. That's going to give us our 12 extra stitches. You can either do 3 solid double crochets, or if you want to have a chain in there to add different stitches for another round, you could do 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet, whichever you prefer. I'm going to start with a chain 3 to serve as my first double crochet, and then 2 more doubles. And this will work for any spiral that you're working on. You're just adding 3 double crochets into each corner to form a square. And now we just need to straighten out our curve to get to our next corner. So I'm going to show you the sequence that I found worked for me, but you can play around with this. If you find that something else works better, go for it. It's not going to change the stitch count. So I'm going to do 1 double crochet, 2 half doubles, 5 singles, working our way back down to the corner, 2 half doubles, 1 double, and now I'm at my corner. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets for my corner, continuing around to my next corner, same sequence, 1 double, 2 half doubles, 5 single crochets, working our way back up, 2 half doubles, 1 double, and now I'm back at a corner, and we're just going to do the same sequence all the way around. Coming to the end, 2 half doubles, 1 double, and I'm back to a corner. I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of the first true double that I made. That'll put the slip stitch right above that chain, and my square is complete. Now, if you find that's working too tightly for you, you can always bump those corners up to 5. I just wanted to show you how to keep that stitch count accurate in case you wanted to use this with other squares. And like I said, you can do this with any of the spirals that you're working on. Just divide whatever round that you're working on by 4, and that's where your corners are going to be. And then just use the sequence of singles, half doubles, and even doubles to help straighten out that curve. To turn this into a square, follow the instructions that I showed you for the solid square. At this point, I would just fasten off one of the colors and work the rest of the round with one color, or you can use both colors. That just means 2 sides will be one color and 2 sides will be the other color. If you're wanting to do your square with both of the colors, then the only really tricky bit is right here at the corner where you're changing colors. You can do it a couple of different ways here. So I'm finishing my last double crochet before the corner. And if I want to leave it attached, then I'm just going to go ahead and finish that double crochet and then bring in the second color. I'm just going to do the chain 3 to serve as that first double crochet. Pull it through that first color and then continue on. Now, I just made that up. I don't think that's a proper way to do anything, but it was just convenient. And now I'm just continuing on. That was my corner of 3 doubles, the first double for the side, and then continuing on with my side with 2 half doubles, and continuing on with the sequence. The proper way to do it, fasten off your second color, pull back that final double crochet you're making, and before you complete it, so that would be a completed double crochet, before you complete it, bring in your second color and then work your corner. So the only difference is you'll have a little bit of a blue line at the top of that first stitch, or you'll have the proper color above that stitch. So whatever you find most convenient, use that. Let me show you the color change one more time since it's in a different spot. So I'm squaring off here and I've done my first 2 half double crochets of this side. I need to do 5 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and on my 5th one, I have my color change. So I completed that 4th stitch completely, and I'm just going to pull in the new color through that loop, and then just complete that stitch as normal. And your transitions will look like this. So there you have it. I hope something in this video helped to simplify this for you, and I hope you'll give these spirals a try. They are so much fun, whether you want to do a circle or transform it into a square. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.